made by people, you know, and we are all the ones who, you know, are going to be doing that. So I like to tell that story. And I just want to say one other thing about this corn, which is my father, he passed away about 20 years ago, but my father used to say to me, he used to say, Winona, you're a really smart young woman. He'd say, I like to listen to you talk. He said, Winona, you're really smart, but I don't want to hear your philosophy if you can't grow corn. Isn't that a really interesting, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And he's right. You know, so now I grow corn, you know, but it took me a while to understand what he meant. But it makes you a better person to be in relationship to your relatives that have roots. That's my assessment on that. That's our wild rice. You know what this looks like. This is a post-petroleum wild rice processing facility. Everything we do in my community is post-petroleum. Wood parched, maple syruping the same way. You got to fight off the bad guys. You guys know these stories. We fought off the genetic engineering of wild rice in Minnesota a few years ago because we think the words wild rice should not be associated with the words genetic engineering. Seems like wild should mean something, right? Like not genetically engineered. This here is a Maori potato called peru peru. They try to genetically engineer that. I don't know if you guys know the Maoris. Y'all pretty familiar with the Maoris? Yeah. Pretty much don't want to mess with them. That's what I figured out. Yeah. They just aren't going to take it. So they faced off with the University of New Zealand, and with them and Greenpeace faced them down, and they quit with their really bad idea. You know, the genetic engineering. The Hawaiians also got to stand down on the GE of Tiro. But I say that, but this here, then they did a DNA test on this, and you know this. This potato is in the Pacific. Yeah, this is the highest rate of Andean genetics of any potato in the Pacific, and it's pre-Captain Cook. That's what I'm telling you, because everybody knows that. You know, those Maoris, you know, pretty good travelers with them canoes, I guess. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. This is like totally full-on Peruvian genetic potato in the middle of the Pacific. Anyway, cool looking. And have good art in your campaigns. This is their campaign art. I'm writing a book on this food, and this is their, I'm going to try to use this for the cover, but that's obviously the Maoris and the Ayamaras saying thanks for protecting the potato, or something like that. I don't know, I'm not there, but that's what it looks like today, right? Good work on those potatoes. So food sovereignty, and in the end, if you re-organic your agriculture and localize it, you could sequester up to 25% of CO2 emissions. Why am I telling you that? Because stupid people in government and industry spend an inordinate amount of money trying to figure out how to sequester carbon, right? Come up with, it's like the nuclear waste ferry, the carbon ferry. There is not a carbon ferry, and there's not a nuclear waste ferry. Nobody's going to make it go away. The best thing to do is leave it in the ground. Right? And always, do not let them take that argument and turn it into some kind of a fantastic scientific debate that is a joke. The best answer is organic agriculture. You know, quick combusting, organic agriculture, relocalized, address climate change, peak oil, all that, you know, with that. But I say that because it's very important, you know, in your strategizing, is not to let them control the debate. This is our answer to bad energy projects. Amory Lovins, whose slide I used before, uses some interesting terminology. I mean, the reality is that in the economic systems we have in the US and Canada, you have nega-technologies. That's what he calls them, which is just some choices that we should just not be making, like a reboot of the nuclear industry or the tar sands, right? The inordinate amount of resources spent on both of those projects takes resources away from what the future is supposed to look like. So you keep battling them because they're evil, and you also battle them because they're wasting our damn money, right? And that's a really important thing to not let them get away with, is the idea that somehow the amount of money that's, you know, wasted in this stuff should just, you know, be just not even discussed. So this is my community wind project. This is my grandson, Giwaden Bakanaga, who's 4. But he's a little bit younger, he's 2 there, but he is outside the yellow tape. Do you see that? He's putting that out. His mother worries about me taking him, but I'm fine. outside the tape. All right. So the reason I'm telling you about this project, and this is really important, is that, so most of you know I spent a lot of my life fighting really bad projects, and I still do, you know? And because you got to fight the bad guys. You got to keep fighting them, because if we don't fight them, then, you know, our shot's a little bit less and getting shit done, you know, and stuff going good. So you fight the bad guys all the time. You keep that up. But at the same time, you know, and so what happened is that in our area they had this plant called Big Stone 2 coal plant. They started 100 megawatts of coal. It's right on the end of the sweetest wind regime in North America, North Dakota, right? And they want to put up a darn coal plant. And the company's called Ottertail Power. They want to put this up, and they started about 20 years ago with this plan, and they're sitting there and they keep trying 20, you know, and the environmental groups all come in and battle them and battle them and battle them and battle them and get them down to 500 megawatts because our investors fall out, which is what I told you earlier. You keep fighting them, and there's not the money to do the project, right? And the economics of the whole, you know, frail capitalist system is predicated on these investments, right? So don't forget that, you know. So they get them down to 500 megawatts, and they're still going and still going. And like the rest of you who are in here, I'm sure, you know, I wake up some days and, you know, I got a lot on my plate, as you gathered, you know, and I'm just like, oh, I hope that project went away. You know, you're hoping that, like, this just disappeared, you know, just that bad idea is gone, you know. And it wasn't. It still wasn't gone. I was getting just irritated, and it was going to blow mercury onto my reservation. But I was just hoping the environmental groups could take care of it because I was busy, you know. I'm just being honest with you, and this is how you got to think. You got to always figure out if there's enough people in the terrain. Sometimes you don't need to weigh in on every project. You understand what I'm saying? If there's enough people out there, let those guys take care of it, and just go, you rock, you know. And then wait till the next thing comes in where you actually need to be there. Yeah. So we got to this point, and then this power company is 100 miles from my house, and they just make me just irritated, you know, and they're my power producer for my reservation. And so we go down there, and these young people come, this professor comes and asks me if I'll teach an environmental justice class, which is always a mistake to ask me. You know, so I said, you should have a workshop. I said, yeah, sure. She says, they're from the town that the power company's in. She says, what are we going to do? I says, we're going to organize a little campaign on the power company. And so I get these students at Fergus Falls Community College to organize, I want a debate. I want a debate with the power company, right? Where it's them, you know, on their case, and us, and the native people. Because the other thing is that they've never had native people go to their hometown. And this is a little town that's controlled by the power company. They put all the funding in, and it's their hometown, right? So they don't want a debate. This is not surprising. They don't want a debate. What they say is that, well, sure, we'll have a debate, but we get to pick the moderator.